All right, welcome to another episode of Real Estate versus Technology. I'm your host, Norman Kinsey. We have our co-host, Mr. Dan Gandy. Welcome, Dan.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Of course. We have a very special guest. Before we go ahead and tell you who this person is, we want to make sure to encourage you to like today's episode, hit that subscribe button, and comment below with what you learn. And today we have someone who's crushing on Instagram and is doing something with the Instagram Power Method. We're going to get into that today. This is a coach that helps real estate professionals and also LOs. We have Michelle on the show. Welcome to Real Estate versus Technology, Michelle.
Thank you both. I'm so excited to be here. This is gonna be fun.
Of course. And we saw that you're already on some very well-known podcasts, as we're probably the infant in the game here. We're only about almost 2 years in podcasting ourselves and love just to show up for this amazing real estate industry. And let's get started with just your humble beginnings. How did you even become into getting into coaching and coming up with this course and doing what you're doing for real estate professionals and LOs?
Yeah, I'm gonna say all of my backstory as fast as humanly possible, but I absolutely love telling this. It's kind of one of those things. After being in business for almost 8 years, sometimes it's even hard for me to believe that that's how it all started and how it happened. But yeah. So I actually graduated from college in 2012, had a degree in journalism and psychology, with the intention of I was going to write a book. And I really thought I was going to be like the next Aaron Andrews of the sports world. Okay. I was a huge, I've been an athlete my entire life. I swam competitively and swam at Rutgers University, which is why I moved from California all the way to the East Coast on a swimming scholarship. Graduated from college, did what most humans do, right? They get a job and went into corporate America. And my dad wanted me to go to law school. I knew I wasn't going to law school. It just wasn't in my heart. And I decided to go get my master's. So I got my master's in social media, public relations, and graduated at the end of 2014. And while I was doing that, I was working for a small public relations firm in Southern California. And it was horrible. The experience was just made my blood boil. And part of it was every single client got the exact same content. At the time, it was really Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook heavy. Instagram really wasn't a thing to the extent that it is now, or the way that we know it now. And every piece of content we created for all of the clients, it was the exact same. It was so stock imagey. People were paying thousands and thousands of dollars for this, and it just did not sit well in my heart at all. Wow. So ultimately, at the ripe age of 24, I walked into my parents' house and told them that I quit without even giving them my 2 weeks to the company. And my dad immediately was like, excuse me. And I'm living in Southern California at the time. Obviously it was very expensive. It still is. And it was one of those things like, it's okay, Dad, I can do it. And so I actually started my own company in November of 2014, doing social media management for small companies that I literally had to go door to door to get. So I wasn't scared of getting and creating relationships because I already knew that I could do it better from what I had just experienced. Yeah. So I obviously charged a lot less than what this ridiculous company was charging, and was able to get enough clients to pay my bills and do things at the time. But I was CrossFitting after retiring from swimming. That's what most people do, right? They go do something else. And mine was CrossFit. But I was in the CrossFit gym and I was venting to a girlfriend about this whole experience at this company, and her husband overheard it and said, "Hey, Michelle, come over for dinner. Let Marissa and I make you dinner and we'll talk about an opportunity with Instagram." And I was like, Instagram, what the heck is that? I didn't really know. It was really, really new. And so I said, whatever. Okay. So I went over for dinner and he talked to me about this world called the influencer space, which most people have heard of now. But at the time it was very new. And basically what he was doing was he was buying and selling Instagram accounts at scale. So he would buy accounts that had 100,000 followers, 200,000 followers, etc. He would grow them. And in the process of growing them, he would sell ad space to large brands. So if you guys have ever heard of like Fit Tea, Brighter White Teeth Whitening, Beautiful Destinations, which is a really big real estate type page. I don't know exactly what they do now, but back in the day, that's what it was. And we essentially were brokers for all of these big companies that wanted to use Instagram to generate business for their product. So I got really, really good in the process of doing this, of understanding what kind of content did well on what kind of pages, what ultimately created that psychological button or switch to flip in somebody's brain where they're like, okay, now I need to whip my credit card out and pay for something. So I got really, really good at that process. And the way it worked was a company would say, here's $5,000, turn it into more money at the end of the month, and we'll send you another $5,000. And so that's what I started doing. Went from, making, $5,000 to $6,000 a month as a self-employed social media manager to making close to 20 in a matter of 3 months. So the influencer space was just like, holy moly. There's so much money to be made. But at around the 3-year mark, I decided like, there's gotta be a better way for me to do this versus having to be behind the scenes all the time. Yeah. So I actually hired a business coach and flew to the UK, all the way across the world. At the time, I had never even left the country up until that point. Sat in a coffee shop with him for 7 days across that entire week. Mind mapped out what is now the Instagram power method. And when I landed in the States, at the end of that trip, I fired all my clients that were not real estate agents or loan officers, and only worked with those once I got back. And then in that process, started building the Instagram power method, which is essentially a reverse engineer of everything that I was doing for everybody else. And instead now teaching other people and empowering others to do it themselves. So we officially launched in July of 2019. And this current year, our goal is to do just shy of $750,000 in core sales. Last year, we did just shy of $500,000. So we have, a 20%-ish goal of increasing. So I'm super pumped. Students and clients in 43 states and 3 countries, and we're trying to keep it rolling.
Nice. That's awesome. Congratulations. That's amazing. And it's interesting to think about Instagram these days too, because what you just talked about, it's like, we're almost at the cusp of like, I'm not saying Instagram's going anywhere, but it's going somewhere soon. Like you see with TikTok and everything else, like it's already at that point where it's like, okay, what's next? And like, you just kind of can feel the buzz. It's kind of interesting. But this doesn't matter because you can be anywhere and nowhere at the same time, because obviously Instagram. But where are you located?
Yeah. So I actually grew up in California, lived in Jersey, moved back to California, lived in Phoenix for 7, almost 8 years. And now my husband and I actually just moved to a very small town in Louisiana, called right outside of Fort Polk. My husband's a strength and conditioning coach for the military after serving for almost 8 years himself. So we now live in a tiny, tiny ass military town. I don't recommend anyone moving here.
Wow. Well, I'm in Arizona right now outside of Phoenix. I'm in Gilbert. So just moved here 2 years ago with my wife. And I got to say that's awesome. Sounds like y'all are a power couple for sure. So that's super cool. I love it. So last question I have for me before we give it to Dan for the mix-up round, kind of deep dive a little bit more into the power method. What's the best part about doing what you do at your company?
Oh my gosh. Every single day I get to see somebody's light bulb go off. And it doesn't have to be like this huge event that happens, right? But it has to just be something every single day for a client. And my motto, anybody that works for me, I have 4 full-time employees and they all know this. And anybody who comes into the course ecosystem knows that my goal and my personal, if I can do this every day, I can go to sleep okay and know that I'm doing a good job, is if I can change one person's life that day, then that's a huge win. Now that can, again, be micro, right? That can be something as small as they refuse to put their templates out on Instagram because they couldn't get over the fact that they didn't love their branding. And they just ripped the Band-Aid off. It could be, yesterday I was on a call with one of our private clients and he got 2 leads in the first week of being live with us. And he literally could not believe that it had happened. And his main goal is recruiting agents for his small boutique brokerage in Massachusetts. And he was like, my small little baby brokerage, and I have 2 leads for 2 agents that want to come work with me. And it's all from Instagram. Like, how does that even happen? So those types of experiences, those types of calls, the text messages that somebody sends and just says, Michelle, I just got my first lead on Instagram and it's $1 million house. And it's just mind blowing. Right.
Yeah.
And to know that in some way I had obviously a very small hand, I would say, maybe a big hand. I don't know how you would want to quantify that, but in helping that person change their career, it's the best feeling in the whole world.
I love that. Good for you. That's super huge. One thing I've been doing, which I don't see a lot is like when someone follows you, like, it's one thing to send them a direct message, thanks for the follow them back, but actually like picking up the phone and doing a video message. And I've been sending out video messages and people are just floored. They're like, oh my God, like I never expected that. And like, it turns into so much more. And it's so easy. You just basically pick it up and then you like do a video. You know what I'm saying? And like that could turn into so much more for someone because people don't expect that. And it's not a template. You're not sending out some garbage, but I'm looking forward to deep diving a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and switch this over to Dan for the mix-up round. Go ahead, Dan, take it away.
Thanks, Norman. So let's talk about a little bit of the tech. I think that's part of the mix-up round is there any specific tools that you integrated into this method? Is it just pure strategy and cadence and discipline? Like, is there analytics data? Like, can you give us a little bit of insight on the tech that kind of blends into this coaching?
Everything you just said, it's all of that. It's all of those things. So it's a little bit of the core premise of the entire program, just to kind of put it out there, is it's psychology, right? It's what's going on between somebody's ears that's going to make them want to ultimately hire you as their agent, or have you help them with a loan, or if you're a real estate agent, deciding whether or not that loan officer is somebody that you want to work with, right? So there's a lot that goes on psychologically in order for those decisions to be made. And so I would say a vast majority of the program is all mental. It's how do we overcome the struggles of, I don't know what I'm supposed to post. Well, yeah, you do, because you talk to people all day, every day. You just have to look at it differently. Right. And so that's one big part of it. And the second part on the tech side, to be, super specific and talk tangible, right? We use an automation software called Planoly, which I've been using for almost 8 years. I personally legit love Planoly. Just like any systems, there's always tech glitches here and there. But Planoly is one of the only Instagram approved third-party integration, scheduler apps, if you will, aside from Creator Studio. And I don't love Creator Studio. I think it's super clunky. So for me, Planoly has always been something that I've stuck with. There's lots of reasons for that. And then the second tool that I teach inside the course is Canva. Everybody's used Canva. Everybody knows Canva. It's free for the most part. If not, pay the $13, $14 a month for the business and write it off, But those are the only two paid things that they need to have in order to go through the course. But my personal favorite side of the entire program is that there's 23 homework assignments. So these are printables. These are actual downloads that have been curated and developed by me. One of which is my personal favorite of all 23. It's a handout called DM Like a Boss. Norman, it was kind of ironic that you brought that up, but a lot of people, that's what they do, right? They like to send messages to somebody saying, thanks so much for following me. And that's the exact opposite of what they should be doing on Instagram in order to generate business. So DM Like a Boss is my strategy to actually convert in your DMs in a very organic, very conversational manner. So I teach them strategically how to move a lead from cold to warm, warm to hot, and then ultimately get that person on the phone, either on a Zoom meeting, or let's go have coffee if we're hyperlocal with them. But DM Like a Boss is my favorite. We have trackers that we built out. An engagement tracker being one of them, right? So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 45 comments, 20 story replies, teaching them very strategically where to do those so that it's not spam comments, right? It's not like heart emojis all over the place. It's not awesome content, exclamation point. We're getting really genuine and authentic comments out of the individual that's creating the content. Right. So people will call me all the time. Michelle, Instagram's not working for me. What's the number one thing I need to start doing? And my very first question is, are you engaging yourself? Are you yourself going out and doing likes, doing comments, doing story replies? And I would tell you 1 out of 10 people say yes.
Yeah. That's such a huge component to the social media success, right? Is it's social. And I think a lot of times I bring that up.
Precisely.
The biggest question I have, right, is where does that return on investment come from? Is it tangible in terms of DMs to closings? Is it audience count? Is it shares on listings? Like, where do you see the most return on investment in that space of Instagram for a real estate or an LO?
There's two forms of ROI, excuse me. Had too much coffee already today, apparently. Have a 6-month-old. So that's part of why I have to have a lot of coffee.
I've seen that. Congrats.
But thank you. So the answer to your question is that there's two forms of ROI on any social platform, regardless of whether it's Instagram or not. Instagram, of course, being my medium of choice, but subliminal and tangible ROI, right? So subliminal is Phil Dodds, who, Norman, you had said you saw his video on my website, right?
Yeah.
That he is a very, very dear friend, turned into a client, or sorry, other way around. He was a client that turned into a very dear friend, but he actually heard me on a podcast, Mortgage Marketing Radio with Jeff Zimfer, heard me on that, then bought the Instagram Power Method course. And then just 2 weeks ago was himself on Mortgage Marketing Expert, asked to attend or be on, if you will, as a guest by Jeff himself. And Phil could literally not believe that had happened, right? That was a full circle. Like, this is how I got into the Instagram space, was I heard Michelle. Now I'm being featured. Like, on what planet is that happening to me, you know? So that's an example of subliminal ROI. And in my opinion, subliminal ROI is almost more powerful than anything else. And, right here, the three of us talking is a form of subliminal ROI for myself, in the sense of that's how people ask me to be on their show. That's how people ask me to speak for them, speaking for brokerages and, I just was asked to be at Inman for the first time, and that's huge, right? 3 years ago, if you would have asked me if I would have gotten a 15-minute segment at Inman, I would have laughed at you. And 3 years later, here we are. So that's Instagram, right? That's subliminal ROI on Instagram. Now, the tangible side of things is exactly what you had mentioned. It's somebody reaches out and says, hey, I'd like to buy a house. Or, hey, I saw that you posted that listing. I'd like to go see it. Or, hey, I heard so-and-so recommended me to you. I found you on Instagram and I just figured I'd send you a message, right? Those kinds of conversations are tangible. And those are the internally, those are the ones that feel the best, because we're like, yes, I made it.
Money.
Right? But they're not necessarily the ones that are the most powerful, but they do make us feel really good in the moment. And I actually, my most successful real estate agent in my program, she's actually in Mesa. A very, very good friend of mine as well. And I lived in Mesa, fun fact. So that's where my husband and I lived before we moved. But her name is Carla McGee. She is a commercial multifamily agent. In 2021, she did $7.1 million in direct gross commission, or not gross commission, excuse me, but total sales, real estate sales in or off of Instagram out of her 17 million total in production. So she did a total of 17 million. 7 of it came directly out of her DMs. 100% she could say came from Instagram. And so that's, if my math is correct, that's about 40% of her business last year. She does no other form of marketing whatsoever at this point, aside from Instagram. And she, on the subliminal lead side, was asked to be on AZ Family, and 2 other local news shows in the Arizona area, or Phoenix, Arizona area. So she gets 100% of her business off of Instagram and from being on different news channels. And guess how the news channels found her? Instagram. So wow. It's one of those things, like it can happen, and it will happen if you put the time and you're consistent. And I think we mentioned it, or I think you guys might've mentioned it, of, the analytics side of things. And Carla only has like 1,300 followers. When she started with me, she had like 200. Right. So it's not about how many followers you have. It's not about how many people are looking at your content, because some of her content that's gotten her business has been the least liked of any of her content. Right. Because it's the value specific to real estate stuff that she thinks, hey, I need to put this out there, but I only got 4 likes. Who cares? Right. Because that's 4 more than you would have gotten if you would have door knocked, to try to go tell 4 people or as many people as possible about whatever this thing was. So yeah, there's my long-winded way of answering your ROI question.
Well, I think I want to identify this last thing, and I'll hand it back to Norman, is that agents, especially real estate agents, they're always concerned about that ROI, right? And they're concerned about like, oh, I didn't get any deals from this, so I'm going to cancel this service. Oh, I didn't get any appointments for this, so I'm going to cancel this service. But Instagram and being consistent and putting the sweat equity into it and the time and the discipline and the calendaring, the actual effort that it takes to engage with people, to post on it, to be consistent, they miss the boat on the long-term ROI, right? That subliminal that you're talking about, that is, if they just would have started today, January 1st, and they would have done it till January 1st of next year, the subliminal ROI that they've created across their local area and through all the circles of followers and friends and sphere and past clients is unobtainably impossible to put a number on. And because you can't put a number on it, they don't do it. And I wanted to identify.
If you flip that around to continue that, right, that's why they don't do it. A lot of the times is because they think that they don't see instant results. So they're just like, cool, bye. On to the next on to the next flashy or shiny thing that comes down. And what I tell people is, if you have, to your point, right, if you started January 1st and you wait until the following January 1, think about how many conversations you've had or will have over that year of people who are like, hey, I saw you ramped up your Instagram. Hey, I saw you post, you've been way more active, and you posted a story of the pumpkin pie you made. Like, just dumb conversations that, to you, if you take a step back and you actually write all of those conversations down at the end of the year, you'll be mind blown at how many people are actually consuming your content now that otherwise wouldn't have. And who cares if it's family or friends? Who cares if it's people in your local sphere? Who cares if it's people that you go to the CrossFit gym with? Those are people who have friends. Those are people who talk to other people. And the way I look at it and the way I coach it is, can you afford not to? Because if you wait a year, think about our course, right? We had 276 people join the Instagram Power Method in 2021. I'm looking at my whiteboard. So we have 276 people who decided that in 2021, they were going to try to do better with Instagram. Now, of those 276, I would say maybe half of them actually did what they needed to do. And of the half, you get about a third, maybe even a half of the half. So a quarter total of the 276 who are seeing the ROI and are doing the results. So that quarter of the 276 people are now making money off of Instagram, and their investment in the platform is free, right? Like, Instagram doesn't cost anything. So it's kind of mind blowing. And people are like, oh, well, your course, it's $1,797. That's expensive. That's a lot of money for me to front right now. And I'm like, it's actually going to cost you more money to not do it, because all of the deals that you could have gotten are going to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
I'm intrigued as a real estate broker myself. I'm intrigued because I have 1,300 followers and I'd like to have 1,300 deals from it. Right. So no, that's good. All good information. I like your clear, blunt strategy of, you have tons of experience in this. You're not coming from somebody who's just throwing out a bunch of pipe dreams, and I respect that about you, because I think that's what real estate agents need. They need the punch in the face to be like, listen to what I'm telling you to do and put it into plan. Yeah. Put it into the action.
Well, my business coach calls me a bulldog. So
yeah.
You got military here, right? Military family. So, and just to keep on schedule. Thanks for taking that mix up around, Dan. And yeah, I mean, just to quickly unpack that, it seems like from my side of the standpoint, it's like, you're just literally on a psychology forefront. You're just like teaching people how to have a conversation, because they don't understand how to have a conversation if it's not like this, because it's on something like this, and then to speak through this and to do a video and to like look at 4 or 5 of the posts or whatever that person has going on in their lives on their Instagram page, and then articulate a response back and being like, hey, like, I also have a daughter. She's 3 years old. Oh my God, you live in Phoenix. Oh, I live in Gilbert. Like, and you just have a conversation and make such a big deal. It's so much different. And I love how, like, I look at it as like brand equity. So like you buy a house for realtors out there who's listening, and the house has so much equity. And then you tell your clients, hey, is it time to sell? Low inventory, yada, yada, yada. I like your psychology forefront of like how it's like more of like subliminal. It's like subliminal equity, and how you work that kind of terminology as well, which is super, super smart. And it's so true. A lot lot of these agents, and I saw that the gentleman who's a good friend of yours now, he bought the course at 12 and now it's like 1,800. And if anyone's listening, it's probably gonna go even higher. So you get the course now. Don't wait any longer. Links are down below, because at the end of the day, you're investing into yourself, right? I mean, you're investing into yourself and your future self successes. And it's unfortunate. A lot of agents who's listening right now, you don't follow the process and you get excited about that next shiny toy. And then it's just like, oh yeah, what did I buy? What did I do? I totally forgot about that. I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I mean, the questions that I have, data, you already went over it. I mean, what maybe is something new? Are you working on anything new to kind of throw into the mix on the course, or something that people should look out for that you're excited about?
Yeah. So we update at least 2 or 3 times a year. And we actually just did, I have it somewhere in front of me. I have so many pieces of paper on my desk. It's ridiculous, but,
it looks clean from this standpoint.
We just added, I don't know if people are going to be able to see this. I know we're podcasting, but if it's on YouTube, whatever, people will be able to see that I just had that. But we update the course regularly. So in front of me, there's a list of 12 different updates that got added, just in the last 3 months. Wow. And I finally got to post in our course members only Facebook group that all of these updates were done. And it like looking at the updates, I'm like, there's even more that I want to do. But one of the ones that's probably my favorite, I guess I have 2 favorites. So one of them is all about caption writing. And caption writing is one of those things that I think is a very underserved space on Instagram, right? People are like, I don't need to learn how to write a caption. When in reality, if you look at captions that people write, they are terrible. Like they are bad, right? They don't understand that readability, conversation, all of those things. So again, I'm a big psychology person, but something as simple as like, are you rereading your captions before you post them out loud? And I don't know if you guys do that, but like when I read my any copy I write, I read it out loud. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful I just did that. Because if that would have gone out like that, it would have been awful. And I'll catch grammar, I'll catch issues with your versus your, right? Like all the things that you wouldn't normally be able to catch if you're just trying to speed read. And that makes a huge difference in your readability and people who actually will read to the end of your captions. So there's something to be said about your adding breath is what I call it, right? So adding breath into your captions so that people can actually feel like they want to continue in. The power of emojis in your captions, I also think is an under discussed conversation. So the call to action piece of it also being part of it, but all of that is caption specific, right? So the caption module is one of those that I think a lot of people think that they can skip because they're like, I know how to write captions. I got it. And I'm like, don't skip it because there's so much in there that you will not have recognized if you hadn't watched the videos. And I got a DM message this morning, actually, and I'm about to post it in my stories when the 3 of us are done chatting. But she had mentioned to me, she was like, the course is so much more than like the course of learning how to do Instagram. What it is confidence. It's a confidence in creating conversation online in a place that a lot of people feel weird doing it, right? Yeah. Like, for example, sending a DM, it can be awkward. It can be one of those, like, this person has no idea who I am, but the intention behind it is creating conversation based off of a mutual or shared connection, Norman, which you had just said, right? And so that's one of the updates we actually added. It's called the 3 C's, which is just the terminology that I coined. But it's creating connection that leads to conversation that ultimately turns into conversion. And so that's one of the updates we added because people need to understand how those 3 things work together and that it's not about, oh my God, I got 400 likes on my post. And I actually fired a client last month because guess what they did? They bought fake views, fake followers, and fake likes on their content. And I could tell from a mile away. And I'm like, bro, like, this is not going to help you in what your goal is. It's going to hurt you. You might as well shut the whole account down and start over because Instagram's just from now on going to flag that and know it.
Yep. So, and they're shutting down accounts left and right. My account, like my wife's account, my daughter's account all got closed and we don't even know why. So yeah, I mean, Instagram is like getting super strict. So everyone be careful out there. I would, not recommend that either as well. And it's interesting. I think the last question I have before I leave the floor open to you, Michelle, so you can just leave something for our viewers and listeners to take as like a golden nugget for today's episode is like technology disrupting, real estate versus tech. And it's kind of like traditional marketing to now new marketing. disrupting the market. And like, if 90% of the business is done by the top 10% of real estate professionals, just like your top 10% are doing your courses and following the process, like I feel like they need to adapt to Instagram and how to social sell. If not, then you might as well just go to Open Door or whatever and just do an iHome buyer type situation and just be completely done with it. And I don't think that's going to go anywhere. What's your thoughts on, kind of last question, as far as like technology, like disrupting this market or taking market share away from real estate professionals?
I think what the word you just used, market share, that's what I was going to say before you said that at the end of it, is that this is about capturing market share, even in a very small hyper local area. Right. Yeah. So people think, and people they believe that Instagram is hard because it's this like worldwide platform. Why would I put time and effort into it if I live in this tiny little town? And I have a lady who's in my course and I love her to death. Like, she's just the sweetest lady, but she lives in a very small town in Connecticut. And every coaching call is like, well, my town is different and my town is different and my town is different. And I'm like, no, your town is not different than any other town in the entire world. Like, it's just not.
Everyone has Instagram.
So exactly. But using Instagram in a hyper local market is completely doable and is something that you should be super focused on, because capturing market share is done through hyper local engagement, which is a whole nother thing. And the thing I want people to understand is that 5 years ago, even, right? And I'm living proof of this. 5 years ago, Instagram was not what it is today, right? The Instagram Power Method was born in 2019 at the cusp of Instagram becoming what it is for real estate agents, loan officers. So I got into it at the right time. Yeah. But then guess what happened in 2020? Hello, COVID. Yeah. Right. So I had the biggest year of my career during a pandemic because everybody was stuck behind their computer screen and had to figure out how to make money. Right. Yes. And what I mean by that is real estate agents were stuck behind their computer trying to figure out how to create relationships with new buyers and people who wanted to sell their houses in the middle of a pandemic where they couldn't go to networking events. They couldn't go to, pop by events or doing the local, sponsor the football team. Like, they couldn't do the stuff that made them money in the past. Yeah. And so for me, my course that was born a year before that became what they latched onto because they were stuck behind their computer screen trying to figure out how to create relationships. So I would throw this back to both of you because I'm curious what your thoughts are on it. But 5 years ago, think about where we were. 3 years ago, think about where we were. Now, fast forward to even right now, where are we going to go in 3 more years? I would tell anybody watching or anybody listening that if you're not on Instagram, if you're not on, I hate TikTok, but if you're not on TikTok, you're not on Facebook, you're not on social media, I don't think you'll be in business.
Agreed. I think a big thing too is going to get into YouTube. And I have a guy, Mike Schwartz, buddy of mine up in Canada. He's with the Wolfpack, and one of his agents, he has a YouTube course, did 87 million top line and 67 deals going from California to Texas, just organically on YouTube videos. That is it. Talking about the areas and things to do and whatever the case may be. And I feel like that's kind of, in my opinion, and Dan, you're more than welcome to chime in too before we open the floor up to you, Michelle. In my opinion, I think that's where we're headed. I feel like people are going to go in and they're going to say, I'm looking to move into wherever city. And they're going to see 5 or 6 different realtors on a YouTube video, and they're going to watch 3 or 4 of them. And they're like, I like her personality. And they're going to pick that realtor based off of the information that they received from the area that they're looking to move into and the actual personality of the realtor, and then wanting to work with that person. So I see it going more into a video sequence and that becoming the more social norm, I would say. And there's more of a strategy behind that technique as well, I feel like, is what's going to happen.
I think also that the increasing the probability of digital relationships is a concept that most real estate agents and LLs didn't understand until COVID, right? And so you identified that, like, hey, I need to create an audience of people who'd like, know, trust me, want to follow me. They're interested in what I'm doing daily, and invest money in building a digital audience in your local hyper-targeted market is going to lead to more relationships and more people. Like last year, my landscaper who he mows my lawn and does landscaping cleanup twice a year, hits me up. He's like, oh, I follow you on Instagram. I love your stuff. Hey, I want to buy a house. Boom. Nice. Right. It's that simple, guys. It's connecting with those people, commenting on the stuff that they're doing, and being genuine with it, and put a strategy behind it that actually implements more digital equity. That's what you need.
Well, and I also think, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Jeremy Foose and Matt Chick and Gilbert, Impact Real Estate. Very good friends of mine. Jeremy actually came on my podcast, Coffee and Questions, that just launched literally 3 weeks ago.
Congrats.
But Jeremy was my second episode, and Jeremy and I had a conversation about the power of being the one answering your own DMs. And I think that that's a huge part of this too, right? Because that landscaper, right, who reached out to you and said, hey, I see what you're doing on Instagram. What's the likelihood that he would have texted you? Probably pretty low, right? What's the likelihood that he would have called you? Probably pretty low. But people have confidence and are confident in sending a virtual message to somebody, right? Sending a Facebook message, sending an Instagram message. Hey, Dan, I want you to help me buy or sell a house. But would that person have texted you? No. Right. Mm-hmm. So if you're the agent who's not using social media and you're waiting for someone to call and manually type in your phone number from a sign that's on the side of the road, like, I'm sorry, but what year do we live in? You know? And that's the reality of you have to understand who's playing the game now, right? Who are the players in the home buying and home selling game? And that's what you need to cater to. And some of my clients, I mean, they're 55, they're 57. One of my clients is 65, right? And she's crushing it. And she initially was like, I don't care what anybody says. 55 and older are on Instagram, and I'm going to be that agent that caters to those people because nobody else is doing it. And I said, Val, you're damn right. Nobody else is doing it. And it's so cool to see that. Right. So, I mean, YouTube, I agree with you 100%. YouTube is something that it can be repurposed onto Instagram and to other things, which is probably another conversation. But video is king because your personality is everything, right? I've met plenty of people virtually in real life who I'm like, ugh. But then you meet people in real life who you've had conversations with or seen videos of, and those relationships are better, right? They're stronger because you've been able to connect through personality, mannerisms, the tone of their voice, all of those things.
Yeah, I love it. My relationships, anyone I've met in person from any digital type activities like this has actually been better. So thank God. But I want to go ahead and change up the camera angle, put it on you, Michelle. What would you like our viewers and listeners to take from today's podcast episode?
Oh gosh, just that, you guys have a massive opportunity and people are, oh, I'm behind. You're not behind. You just need to start now. You just need to stop making excuses as to why you haven't started and realize that it's time to start, even if it's bad. And also knowing that Instagram is not about collecting people. It's about creating conversations with as many people who matter to you as possible. So if you stop worrying about collecting people, meaning how many followers do I have? How many likes am I getting? And you start worrying about how many conversations am I starting, even with my, Dan, you said you have like 1,300 followers, right? Those 1,300 people are sitting there waiting for you to conversate with them, even if you don't think that they are. So that's where your money is to be made, not in how do I learn how to make or get more followers? Because if I can get 1,300 more, then maybe I'll get a deal. Right. You guys all know this in the real estate space. Anyone listening who's an agent knows this, that when you are a brand new agent and you're told to go find your first deal, they tell you to go to your sphere. And on Instagram, your 1,300 people, Dan, right? Those are the people who are sitting there waiting for you to reach out and to create the relationship. To give you money. So it's not about collecting people. It's about conversations and how many people you can start conversations with, even if they've used a different agent in the past. Wow.
You got me pumped.
I love it.
I'm going to start DMing people as soon as we get off here.
Dan, if he said this, hey, what's going on? You've been following each other for a while.
I got it. I'm going to implement what you say. This is all good information. Norm, let's do it
and then text me and tell me how it went, or DM me.
Yeah, DM. The likelihood of DM's higher. But Michelle, thanks so much for being on Real Estate versus Technology. We really do appreciate your time today. It was amazing.
Absolutely.
Dan, thanks so much for always co-hosting and showing up. Appreciate you.
Yeah, man, this is a great episode and a lot of value. We definitely went a little bit longer on this one, but I think everybody can take this, listen to it, repeat it, and put some of this stuff into action.
Not to mention, we can always do maybe a follow-up episode with Dan's success from the 1,300 followers and everyone he reached out to. So, so thanks to our viewers and listeners, as it is our intention for you to take something from our episodes here to apply to your business, have more massive success. So start sending out those DMs now. All of Michelle's information is down below. Now you can comment what you learned, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell, and we will see you on the next one. Thank you for watching Real Estate vs. Technology, this week's brand new episode, and making it to the end, your real one. If you haven't already done so, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit the notification bell so you'll be notified for new episodes that come out every single week on Fridays at 3:30 Pacific Standard Time. Also, if you comment on this episode and you like the episode, you'll help this episode get out to more individuals. And if you want to join our Facebook group page, just click a link. It's a Facebook icon on our profile page here on our YouTube channel. Join our group page, network with individuals all across the world, and share what technology you're using to grow your business. The next link is to join our Real Estate vs. Technology brand new IG or Instagram page. If you go on any of our stories, you can see who's going to be on Real Estate vs. Technology before it actually goes live on our YouTube channel. And the last link would be if you want to be on an episode of Real Estate vs. Technology. You pick a date and a time. We'll deep dive into your story and technology you're using to share that with other individuals that view our episodes weekly to inspire, enlighten, show up, and show out for people that love to watch these type of podcasts to have more success in their own business. Thank you so much for your continued support. We appreciate it. We will see you on the next one.